So the Mishnah tells us in Tainis, Misha Nichnas of Mematin B'Simcha. In contradistinction to Adar, Misha Nichnas Adar Marba B'Simcha. And we know when it comes to Adar, even though Rashi has a whole different pshat with the 2 months next to Pesach, but simply it means Misha Nichnas Adar, we're Marba in the Simcha, and Misha Nichnas of is the opposite. We take away, we minimize the simcha. Some saying no simcha at all, not as mamatzed. But interesting, only one is quoted in Shulchan Aruch, the latter. We don't find, not that it's not true, but we don't find it quoted in Shulchan Aruch, Misha Nichnas Adar Marba B'Simcha. We find about the court cases, maybe it's a good time, but it is brought down in Shulchan Aruch about Misha Nichnas Av Mamatin B'Simcha, and that's why we have many different minhagim during the 9 days. And just to go back, we know we have the different time periods. We have the 3 weeks, and we're beginning the 9 days is coming Rosh Chodesh, Sunday night. And then we have Tisha, we have actually, those are also minhagim the 9 days. Me'ikar din ha-gemara, it only begins through a shechobo. And when we're talking about basar, we mean actually basar. It has to be, but chicken really isn't included. That's why we'll see if you have to be mako if someone's a chola, someone's not feeling well, the poskim say to give them chicken, as opposed to, we go with the biblical, like when I cross the border, if I have chicken, I say I have no meat. I go with the biblical definition. So over here we'll see when it comes to Shua Shechobo. And then we have, Tisha B'Av. So we know the famous explanation of the Rav, that everyone quotes, that briskers don't like categories. They don't just say, you can't just pick a couple minhagim from here or there. So the Rav always again, it's never identical, but you can't just pick you can't say there's avelis and then pick minhagim avelis in a vacuum. Even though avelis, again, whether avelis is deraisa drabanan, which is a machlokas rishonim, but the same concept called Rabbanan Kein Deraisa Tikkun, that the Rabbanans follow the Deraisas. Similarly, the Rav says that we know whether you hold Avelis is Deraisa Rabbanan, Machlokas Rishonim, but we have, based on the Gemara in Yavamas, we have Avelis Yeshana and Avelis Chadasha. You have an Avelis when someone loses a loved one. That's one type of Avelis, and you have a more public type of Avelis, a national mourning. And there's a fundamental difference between them. We know when it comes to personal avelis, it goes from the kavod to the kal, from the more difficult to the more intense to the more lenient. You begin with Shiva, the first 3 days within Shiva, and then you can finally leave your house, but you still have the laws of Shloshim, and then you'd base Chodesh, Kibbut Avayim. So good, as time goes on, time heals hopefully, and it's a little easier to get used to the new normal. However, when it comes to public avelos, mourning over the Korban Abayis, that's something we might never do. So therefore we need a process, we have to get there. So we begin with the 3 weeks. So we have the no weddings, the no haircuts, etc. And then you move into the 9 days, which no basar and yayin, no laundering, other type of things. That's what the Rav compares to the 9 days. And then Tisha B'Av, he compares to Shiva, where ultimately if you train yourself through this 3 weeks and the 9 days, hopefully we'll feel the Churban Habayis. So therefore when he talks categories, he always tries to find, therefore it comes out with kulas and chumras. Most other poskim don't necessarily say this, they just say that it's not nothing to do with Yud Beis Chodesh, Shloshim. These are the different minhagim. They were picked up, for maybe we know some of the reasons, maybe some we don't, because.
So the 9 days is Shloshim?
Right. So according to that's why as we said during Yud Beis Chodesh, the Rav's heter is, let's say by shaving. So again, if we know haircuts and shaving usually go hand in hand. The only difference is a haircut you don't need more than every 3 weeks, so take a haircut before. That being said, the halacha is, I actually got the shiloh last week. Let's say someone finishes shloshim in the middle of the 3 weeks, so then the halacha is, before Rosh Chodesh, you take a haircut. Whatever you do for shaving, you do for shaving, but 100%. So I think with Farish and Shulchan Aruch, even the postim that one could take a haircut. Though it's obvious why you couldn't take a haircut, so therefore you take one during that time period. The Rav's heter is that basically, if you assume it's like Yud Beis Chodesh, so therefore the issue is not to look like a menuvel. Again, so whether that means you looking in the mirror deciding that, or someone telling you, do they have to tell you every time? You have details within what the halachas are, but the bottom line is you don't need a heter. According to the Rav, it's mutter to shave during the 3 weeks. And the other poskim, Rav Moshe, others say no. Fundamentally, that's the brought down. You can't shave during the 3 weeks. It's what I don't know if it's Yud Beis Chodesh, so this is a din of Shloshim. They're not so particular on details. You don't need to pin it to anything else. This minig, because of Korban Habayis, and then there is a concept of Korban Habayis has to do actually with, it has a status of like other behemoths we'll see by Kriya. They compare it to like losing a parent. So there's not necessarily this strict Yud Beis Chodesh Shloshim. That's the minig, and that's what you have within that. You have people shaving on Erev Shabbos because they say a minig can't overrule a din of Kavod Shabbos. Others say, what do you mean? That is the minig. The minig is not that they can't tell me Kavod Shabbos. That was the minig. I think that they knew, and then when they said you can't shave 3 weeks, they picked up on it. There are going to be some Erev Shabbos is in between, and they're telling you the minig is not the shave. So again, you have within that again, because they're minhagim. That's why you have many different shitas. Because you don't get the Me'ikar Adin until the actual Shua Shacholbo. All the Mishnah says the Mishnah Nichnas Mamatim B'Simcha. And the truth is, it's not a real din of Avelis because Basar V'Yayin, an Abel's allowed to have Basar V'Yayin. In fact,
there's some Sfardim that don't have Basar in Shiva.
Oh, they don't? And what about Yayin? They don't have Yayin either. Okay.
How come we don't follow? You seem very logical that you don't.
So logic we don't have.
Right.
I'm saying.
If you don't have the 9 days, why would you have it in Shiva?
Yeah, I'm saying. I think they brought the post can bring down 3 shitas that one even says from Yud Zayin Tammuz. Some had a minig. Well, it goes back because this is based on a halakha of the Gemara in Bava Basra. The Gemara talks about they were doing things zeichel or mikdash. So someone, since they said out zeichel or churban, we're not going to have meat and wine forever. But the whole year round, I don't know, maybe Shabbos and Yontif, maybe they would, but barring Sudas Mitzvah, that's a discussion. They wouldn't have, so they said okay, if you wanted, then why stop there? Then also, you can't have water either, because we have the water libations. You can't have flour because we have carbon. So, so the Gemara said, in principle, you're right, it's a great idea, but in principle, it's not something that Tzibur could take on, so therefore we didn't want to accept it. But, so some say, but during this, like Rav Moshe writes something similar by the 3 weeks. He says, even though my sheet is, you can't listen to music all year round, the whole Gemara in Gittin about music together with eating and that type of, with dancing. So Rav Moshe is machmer like the Rambam, and that's why people say, like the Mechaber doesn't talk about music, so it must be okay. The reason why the Mechaber doesn't talk about music during the 3 weeks because he holds the dresser all year round. So Rav Moshe says, even though I think we pass him like the Rambam, but at least follow me for the 3 weeks. Kedai the Churban Habayis. Now they say, in principle you're right, but we pass him like Tosas Mikra Adin. There's no difference between the 3 weeks and all year round, and we don't have to. There is no Isser, again, to get into live music and the thing, because really the Magen Avraham is the one, the Gemara, they talk about weddings. So the Magen Avraham is the one who extends it to music and dancing, and then within the Magen Avraham you get into what about today then? Where you have we don't even have tapes anymore, CDs, we don't hardly find those anymore, MP3s, so again, then you have yesh v'yesh, how make or mach. Some say there's no difference. You treat a CD the same way you treat live music. And others say no. The whole thing's a minig anyway. Then you have, I think, what is those CDs to have? A cappella or something. And some want to have in between that there's this singing but there's no music. And then some say, I just was in the Sfarim, so once in South Fallsburg, and so I see this different music. I was asking the guy, not that I thought he was like, so because it says, it has these are good for the 3 week sphere. So I just want to know who was the posek on that. And then I said, what about the 9 days? He said, it's been 9 days, not, maybe you shouldn't listen to but he wasn't quoting me anymore, but just asking him, like, what he says to the sheet. But even, so since already 9 days already you have Misha Nichnas Av, there's already in the Mishnah. And the Rav also, based on his sheet of Yud Beis Chodesh, felt there's no problem listening to music in the, like, you're traveling to the Catskills tomorrow. You have a long ride and you're in the car by yourself. Certainly to keep yourself up if it's a danger like that. But this, in terms of, he didn't think it was a problem because he saw Simcha Meireyas is the issue. It's a public type of thing. But to listen privately, especially today, I don't even know during those days of, again, it's always part of the whole discussion. During those days, it was a big thing with music and all that. Today, to turn on, like the poskim discussed during the 9 days, also laundering, because one of the issues is Hesach Hadas from Avelis. It was a big thing. You had to go to the lake. It was a whole big promotion. Again, I'm not, it's just how makel you could be, but some talk about it's not the same anymore. The more makel for kids are always dirty, but just to put the thing in the washing machine is a lot different today than, and you have your nanny do it. There won't be any Hesach Hadas. So again, so different to poskim how makel you're going to be. During the, again, it's always better to be more makel in the 9 days than Shua Shachalbo. Again, a different minhagim and speak to your local posek, whatever your issues are on those. But the poskim discuss, all these, you always have to know what it was like then. And so today, obviously, could they ever imagine like the music, you go around walking around on your MP3s today, and something doesn't make a difference. Music is music, it's usher. You're having a katza as usual, and then somewhere in between. So I'm just pointing out, really, an Avel, the way we pass can have Basar V'Yayin. In fact, not only can he, but the Chazal tell us that's one of the reasons wine was created, to menachem, to comfort the Avel. In fact, it's half true because it depends of what you consider the state of Aninus. That's a machlokas, the Ramban and the Rambam. At what point does Avelus begin? According to the Ramban, so then you have to know which part of Avelus are we in. Up until the Kfura, so it's usher to have the Basar V'Yayin. It's only, and according to the Ramban, Avelus already began. According to others, it begins at the Kfura. So the difference they point out is in the beginning part, that's when you're emotionally, you have to get ready, you're preparing for the Kfura. At least when the stimas are go out, the kfur, there's some type of nechama, at least there's some, on a certain level, there's a little closure, at least you've buried the body, and now you're moving, so therefore, when you need, so you have wine, you drink during Shiva already, there's some type of, you're coming for a nechama, for nicham avelim. But they say the 9 days, when there is no nicham, in fact, it's more intensified now, we're getting closer to Churban Abayis. So really, Matan B'Simcha isn't really a strict in Avelus, and we find that by other halachas as well. Not getting married, and Avel also could get married. Especially if he hasn't fulfilled Pru yet. It's a discussion after Shiva during Shloshim, but Bikra didn't. So 3 weeks, why are we more machmer than we are during the Riyah? Again, so it's not really a din of wedding; it's a din of Matan B'Simcha, and they talk about always the concept during the time of Prinius, even though we don't believe in superstition, but the Zman of Prinius, that it's not a good time to start a wedding. So again, there's many things you'll find during the 3 weeks, 9 days. You find this concept of, that's why swimming, like, maybe Shiva can't swim in that, but the issue isn't so much, there's one issue of we're not talking about Rechitza here, per se, there is an issue of Rechitza, but there's an issue also of doing things like not danger. In fact, I think somebody asked with Sternbuch, they said there's a minute they heard of not to swim from Yud Zayin Tammuz. So he went on to say, we have no right to make up our own Xeris today. It only talks about the 9 days, but he said maybe that minute was based on nothing to do with, that could have been that maybe during those days, a dangerous lake or go jumping into, with the big waves, you shouldn't do something that is, the average time you wouldn't do. Maybe it's based on that. You can't make up your own takanas today about saying to swim. Again, so during the 9 days, it gets into another issue of rechitza. then you get into Rav Moshe has a famous tshuva about, well, if we have the same heat wave we have next week, about, perhaps, jumping into the pool just to cool off, and other things, other things like that. It depends on your yeshivas in general about taking showers. Are we all considered istinus today? Like Gamliel during Shiva, he even took a shower. So again, I don't know what your normal practice is, what you've been doing. You could continue doing what you've always been doing, whether, but maybe, we're having a shir next week, maybe a shower before so whatever your meaning is. But that's, again, so today, it wasn't the same type of thing, taking a big bath, and people, like I think even in Texas, which isn't known for its leniency on criminals, even they get to take showers every day. So it might be considered. Yeah, I just saw right in terms of actually I just saw an article in the paper a couple of days ago saying the criminals have it better than the people in the nursing home. But they were saying they get showers, they get this, and it's only twice a week. It was a whole big article, I guess, getting more funding, whatever it was. But the point being is, you have to know the context again. So there are concepts of istinus. Many people, cold, hot. Many people on the books. It's usher to take a shower, and it's us to do all the laundry. Then we could, if you want to know more, but we could discuss about it more later privately in terms of what you want to do. But in terms, those are halachas on the books in terms of laundry, and shower. But many have aterim, obviously, in terms of taking shower, especially for kids stuff also in terms of laundry, and also because the laundry is an issue of Hesed Hadas. There are those posts who say that it's not such a big issue today, putting clothing in. Again, there is an issue in general. There's a double issue in the Shulchan Aruch of, there's one issue of doing the wash, and there's a separate issue of wearing newly laundered clothes, which is a separate thing about you have to try them on beforehand. Before some Erev Tisha B'Av, which is a Sunday today, you have more time. Some people go into the closets, and I think some posts can write Sha'achas, you try the clothes on for an hour. Others say you don't have to try it on for an hour, a minute, an hour, if you're assuming that's your minute, to trying on the different clothes. But in terms of, and in fact, it's a discussion on Shabbos. When Shabbos is the day before, in the posting, could you change your clothes 3-4 times? Someone's trying to say it's hachana, and others say no, it's not hachana. What do you mean? Friday night you wear one clothes. Shabbat I want to change. I guess if you're wearing your Shabbos clothes, that is. And then because we'll get to, because it depends if it's Shabbos Chazon, then maybe you don't have to wear Shabbos clothes, because that's the famous Ramah, where the Ramah writes by Shabbos Chazon, the minig is to wear big decho on Shabbos, because you're an Avelis, and you should wear big decho. I know some people are machmer all year round for that minig, but certainly I see people on Shabbos Chazon wearing big decho. But however, of course, here we follow the minig hagra. So therefore, the Gra says that no, you wear big day. The Gra sheet against the Ramah, he says that you wear big day Shabbos. You can and should wear big day Shabbos on Shabbos Chazon. It's actually the Ramah l'shitason. The Ramah is the same halacha by an Avel all year round. And he says an Avel all year round, when he's an Avelis, he should be wearing big decho. So, and obviously we don't seem to follow that meaning. So but what's the issue? What's the Nakudas HaMachlokas between the Vilna Gaon and the Ramah? So the issue is, there's a concept we know, there's no Avelis on Yantif. We pass in Ben, even B'tzina. On Shabbos, there's no public mourning, but we do have Avelis B'tzina. So that's the Shaila, Avelis, so there's no public mourning on Shabbos. So the question is, if you walk into Shul wearing big decho, is that Avelis B'fehesi or not? So some want to point out that the Ramah was from Krakow, and I think the cities, not that I've been there, but I have friends who have, they told me the city's like 2 blocks long. They were very poor in Krakow, and therefore it wasn't like people had 2 suits. It's like basically, you basically wore the same type of clothing. It wasn't knicker, whether it was big day Shabbos, it wasn't that much of a difference, that much clothes, and therefore the Ramah l'shitason, during Avelis, you're not showing that this is Avelis, no one knows, because you wear this anyway, and therefore maybe it's a little different, but it's not so clear, and therefore the Ramah says in Krakow at least that the minhag was to wear big dechol during all year round of Avelos and Shabbos Chazon, and apparently in rich Vilna, I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek, not compared to today, but apparently in Vilna they had two suits. They had the Big Day Chol and Big Day Shabbos, and therefore the Vilna Gaon Shita, I guess because he said if you walk in, so again today it obviously would be Avelos B'Fehestia, someone walked in, with Big Day, if you didn't do it all the time, it would be obvious why, why. Unless that's why they wear big dechol all year round, and it would be. But for most people, it would be. In fact, that's the same issue, even though it's the minhag Yisrael, or is it the minhag in the bias to Chol Dodi Elit Sion? It is the minhag. Oh, so it's the against the Gra. So I guess they don't follow minhag Gra. The minhag Gra is against it. He says it's Avelos B'Fahesia to do Elit Sion to the nigid of Eicha, which obviously. So by Shabbos Chazon, the minhag seems to be like the Gra, but by the Elit Sion, it seems to be not like the Gra, because the Gra is against it. But many shuls I'm in, they seem to use the tune of Elit Sion for L'chal Dodi, but the Vilna Gaon, the same issue. The Vilna Gaon thinks it's Avelos B'Fahesia, and therefore he was against that custom. So that's what they point out. So Misha Nichnasav Amata B'Simcha, and therefore many of these halachas. And as we said, one is bas of a yayin. So this is interesting.
So Tisha B'av then is Meis Mutal Afanav in the morning. Is that how it finally breaks down?
According to Rav,
what is breakdown? So you have so Shiva.
Right, so it would be 3 weeks would be Yud Beis Chodesh. The 9 days would be Shloshim, and then
Shvush Echalba would be Shiva.
Well, he says Tisha B'av is Shiva. He doesn't break.
Tisha B'av is Shiva.
Yeah, Tisha. We sit on the ground. We don't. And he says Tisha B'av, the whole Klal Yisrael is like, an Avel on Tisha B'av, but Jewish Achabah, that's like,
I think
that's more like
it's the morning that it's Tisha, because
that's something else. No. Oh, right. No, that's right. So then that's something else. So we could just get into that one next week. But that the difference between Tisha B'av before Chatzos and after Chatzos, I'll get into that next week. I'll discuss more Tisha B'av. But no Tiskabel. You start saying Tiskabel after, we'll see some differences, right? But it's still, but people make that mistake. They think they basically there's only certain things you can do, like you sit on a chair afterwards. We put on tefillin. We'll give the reasons why. But basically, the whole day, it still has the din of Avelos. It's not over. We just light it up for different things. But fundamentally, the Yisurim apply. So they point out that this especially comes out very appropriate this year. Sunday night begins in 9 days, so we all know there's an Isser of Bas of Yayin, so we're all going to get in the barbecue this Sunday to get our last Bas of Yayin in before the 9 days. And then the question is what about the leftovers from the barbecue? Are you going to make sure you invite enough people, like a Suda Sauda? If you have to have a lot of people, because a lot of stuff, is there an issue of nosar? So the question is, what about leftovers at the barbecue? Obviously the answer is don't leave anything over, but let's say there are. Could you eat leftovers during the 9 days? So the Birkei Yosef has an interesting discussion on it, even though the minhag will probably not to be, but the Birkei Yosef has an interesting Gemara in Chulin. There's a Gemara in Chulin, Daf Yud Zayin, I believe. The Gemara, totally different context. The Gemara talks about the Jewish people, what the meat they ate in the Midbar, and then the meat that they ate when they entered Eretz Yisrael. The halachas of Shechita, as we know it, only came into full effect when they entered Eretz Yisrael. There was something called Basar Nechira, which again, the discussion what that means, whether it means you could just eat a regular nevela. No, it wasn't just a blanket nevela. There still had some rules, but it was kosher then. So the shaila was, if you had left to when the Jews entered Eretz Yisrael, could they take out the basa nechira? They had the leftover meat. Could they shechted the whole cow? They had leftover meat. When they went into Eretz Yisrael, were they permitted to eat the basa nechira, or no? Or they have or so that's a discussion. Gemara has a discussion about what are we talking about, because there are 14 years of conquest. So Gemara, it can't be talking about the first 7 years. Why? Because it says kadli de chazeri, that they're permitted to eat treif even during those 7 years of of conquest. So therefore, certainly if they could eat kadli, if they could eat bacon and ham, whatever the whole works, then certainly they could eat leftover bas and nechira. The shaila must be the 8th year. I don't know how they kept it for that long, but that's a separate issue. They don't go into that. But then, and then the Gemara says, maybe even the first 7 years we're talking about, because the heter is only if you go into, again, there's a whole machlokas Ramban, how broad the heter was, but the Gemara says maybe that's only if you found shlal avodah zarah. If you walked into their house and it was in the pot, then you could take it. But if you couldn't, in your own kalim, you couldn't just go ahead and cook treif. In fact, Rav Shechter says over an interesting story. I forget one of these characters, one of these soldiers. I forget his name. I guess one of the wars in Israel, maybe I don't know, 67, 73. So I think he went into Lebanon somewhere, and he said, kadli de chazer, we could eat, we could go ahead and, we don't. You don't eat kosher food, you can eat it. She said no. He said you can't make your own food. It's only, as the Gemara says, that you have to, you found the heter there. I'm not saying it applies there, but the heter was, if you went into their homes and found treif, that was the heter. You couldn't go ahead and cook treif, in your own. I don't know if the guy was serious or not anyway, but that's how Shefta says it over. So it's a discussion, the first 7 years, the last 7 years, but either way, what do you do? The Gemara says, teiku. We'll have to wait. Assuming teiku means we're waiting for Eliyahu Hanavi. The briskets don't think so. But either way, the question's unresolved, and we have to, so what do we do? It's unresolved. So some say, why is the Gemara telling me this unresolved? Like, what do I care about it's not halacha l'maisa. We know we're very nafkamina, we're very halacha l'maisa here. Why is the Gemara wasting my time talking about bas and nechira, the leftovers? Who cares? So Rashi writes, drush v'kabel schar. What do you mean? Talmud Torah, like we have perhaps by Ben Sora Mora, the rebellious child, Yara Nidachas. As I pointed out other times, the machokas, the Rav and Rav Baruch Beer, whether a chakira without a nafkamina is meaningful or not. The Rav says no. If it's no nafkamina, you're just pure philosophy, don't waste my time. And Rabbi Baruch says, no, Talmud Torah, it's Chakira, it's meaningful, I understand the sugya better, that's also good. So that's a Rashi going, Drush v'kabel schar, it's not telling me any halacha, but it's just an interesting discussion. And the Rush seems to learn differently than Rashi. The Rush learns, no. What do you mean? I'll tell you where this shaila came up, when it was halacha l'maisa. We know there's a gzeira d'rabbanan, many gzeira d'rabbanans, but the one of gvinas akum. Then we know that even though the ingredients are kosher, that was the whole issue, with other, different, conservative others who always said all the cheese were kosher, because in terms of the ingredients are kosher. The issue was there was a special gvinas akum not to have Jew has to be involved with the process. So either way, so the question was, let's assume so that's the question what they did do. Did the rabbis get up one day and say, you know what? That's it. All the cheese, the gvinas akum is no good. From now on in, you have to have the new definition of Jewish cheese. Or did they give them a couple of weeks to go off their leg? It's not clear. And the Rush doesn't go into it. I'm just raising that question. But the Rush's point is that the gvinas akum, so the question, what happened if they had that gvinas akum from before the gzeira? And now they said, and whatever day, the day's up now, we have to eat the new gvinas akum. So can they eat the leftover gvinas akum from before? So the Rush says, that's the shaila over here in the Gemara and Chulin. So he says, in the Gemara and Chulin it's a teiku, so we have a general principle, it's a suffix. Suffix d'oraisa l'chumra. A doubt by a biblical law, okay, with kosher meat or treif, okay, what can I do? Suffix d'oraisa l'chumra, we can't eat, we don't have the bas nechira, but you can't eat it because we don't know. But gvinas akum, that's a din d'rabbanan. Suffix d'rabbanan l'kula. We could be makel, and therefore those big Miller 10-pound cheeses or whatever they had, they could bring it with them and they could eat, they could still have their cheese omelets and whatever, and use that cheese. So he says, that's the issue. Again, so the question is, So the Rush, that's the Rush. He compares Gvinas Akum to the Gemara's case. Comes along the Berkei Yosef and says, I even have a better comparison. The meat during the 9 days, that's only a minute. And Shul Shachobo, maybe it's Maker Hadin, but chicken wouldn't be. But during I'm talking about the 9 days, the barbecue Sunday night. I'm having a Monday, you're not going to hold off to the end of the week already. You have Shabbos leftovers. So with the 9 days, it's only a minute. So he says, if the Rush is Mako by Gvinas Akum, and that's a Drabanan, it's only a minute of not eating meat. And then the Berkas Yosef thinks you have, at least he says it's a discussion, but definitely room to discuss being lenient on your So again, so someone's going to eat meat, better off eating the leftovers. At least you have the Berkei Yosef perhaps to rely on if they're going to have meat during that time. But that's it. So the other poskim, just about everyone else doesn't like the Berkei, as we get, since we don't eat leftovers during the 9 days. So why not? What's wrong with the Berkei Yosef? They don't like his comparison between the basa and the chira, and that was, again, it gets in, as I pointed out, what was the Gvinas Akum case? Because in the case of the Gvinas Akum, let's say that's it. Once they changed it, it was never going to be permitted anyway. So, kind of like we have a principle of davar sheyesh lo matir, and it's not the same principle, but something similar. That we have halachas of bittul. We apply bittul, but there's a principle. If something's going to be permitted later, why rely on bittul? So similar idea here. They say, like, when it comes to the Gvinas Akum, so there's no choice. This cheese I had already, so that's it. I'm never going to do it anymore. Let me eat the leftovers. But I can never go ahead and have them again. But by the 9 days, they said it's a davar sheyesh lo matir. Put them however they used. Put them in the freezer. Put them however they used to preserve them. And that's something there's something wrong with these leftover ribs. In fact, they're very good. You'll just put some new sauce on it, and you'll have it after the 9 days are over. So therefore, it's not something you can rely. Some say something like that. Again, it also depends on how the Gvinas Akum. That's why it's not clear whether they woke up one day and said that's it, or they gave you a time period, enough time to have you. That's how many people say also that by basi, but it depends. But basa and chira, that's already a chefsa.
But Gvinas Akum is also.
I know, but Gvinas Akum is only a gavra because Gvinas Akum is only a drabanan.
That's true. It's still developed from the chefsa.
Right, that gets into a machlokas among the many achronim. Do you assume every drabanan is by definition a gavra? That's a separate, or no, within the Rabbanan, you could have an history, right? You could, right, they give different lumdas, why not? The bottom line is, the minig is the postum all reject the Berkei Yosef, and they say you can't eat the leftovers, so the trick is either to invite enough people over for the barbecue, or to have to wait till after the 9 days, and or maybe save it for Shabbos or something. But that's the Berkei Yosef. Interesting discussion over there. And then they discuss also as well in terms of Yayin, which won't come up this week, but it's going to come up next week. The whole Shiloh always, and what about for Havdalah? Havdalah, Shabbos Chazon, we know there's an Isser. So on Shabbos, we know we make Kiddush on Shabbos. So we know Basa v'Yayin, we have a heter of a Sudas mitzvah. So the question is where Havdalah fits in, because the Gemara in us, it talks about Yayin and Havdalah, mitzvah. So even though I would think, Havdalah is a mitzvah, everyone should be in agreement. But nevertheless, the Ramah, the post can bring down a minhag of that if you have a child, that you should give it, you make Havdalah over wine, and then give it to a child. Again, there's a whole discussion what type of child, because it's hard to find this kind of child up at 9:25 at night, as we're going to be making Havdalah that way. Whoever that child is that doesn't know how to be Misabel over Yushalayim, because it's a type of Avelos on Yushalayim, exactly what that age group is, because you're making a bracha and giving it to him, so exactly who that katan is, and then go at 10 o'clock at night, he's probably not going to find it. So I don't know, they say you don't have to go ahead and wake up your child. If they're up anyway, it's no big deal. But you don't have to wake them up. The bottom line, if there's no katan available, the poskim say you could drink it yourself. There's a discussion in the Aruch HaShulchan and many other poskim. Was it better to use chamar medina, or what should I use? Since I can't, do I say that's it? Drinking wine, havdalah is a mitzvah. That's it. I've nothing to talk about. I just make my havdalah on wine, and okay, so I'll drink it. Or do I say that no, since it's a minute during the 9 days, and you're making havdalah after Shabbos, even though havdalah is a mitzvah, so there's this discussion about chamar medina. So again, so many poskim are very makbid against chamar medina all year round when you have the ability to make it over wine or grape juice. In other words, they say, some people are very mako chamar medina, could also discuss Shabbos morning as well. But the meaning is for sure, Shabbos morning they rely on the taz, at least on for the schnapps glasses, the small cups. But there are people who have mako on chamar medina. You can be, but the question is there's nothing wrong with chamar medina. The question is, what is chamar medina? That's what the poskim have a big issue. They argue about what's the definition. So I think the Aruch HaShulchan says you're right. If you have beer, then he thinks beer is, and then you can make it on beer. But he's saying a questionable chamar medina. He says better to make it over wine. Others say maybe beer isn't chamar medina. That I think they quote from the Stipler that he says, he's talking about America. I guess North America. We only drink things that definitely applies to me. I don't drink beer. I made that mistake. I think I was about 11, 12 at a family picnic because I used to see when I'm watching the Met games, there's always a Schaefer beer. I don't know if anyone goes back. And there's a song, and it made it look so good. Schaefer is the one beer they have when you're having more than one. And I saw it there. I figured, let me have some. I spit it right out on the grass. I was expecting like some nice shake. It was awful. Americans only like sugar drinks, so he claims it's not chamar medina anymore. Maybe, I'm sure there are a lot of people who will be cholek on the Stipler. In practice, they think it is. For me, it certainly isn't. I don't have beer ever, but I'm saying, but in terms of that, so again, that's the issue. There's no problem with the halach is you can make havdalah over chamar medina. Again, some say if only if there's no wine. But even if those who say even if there is wine, but then within what is, you have the whole gamut from coffee, tea, orange juice. Some like soda, some don't. What the definition of, because it gets into what the definition. Because Ramosha, who was against soda, maybe times have changed. Because he writes, because it's not something you would offer a guest in your house if he wasn't coming from a game, meaning from a workout. He says, if it's something you would offer someone to drink so today, I don't know anyone else, but most people offer soda to people when they're not this as a social drink. So based on Ramosha's definition, you could argue, even though Ramosha himself didn't think soda was, maybe today might be different. Again, so that's the part of the issue. So again, different. So it comes down, you're either going to have a kul or a chumrah. Either you're going to be machmir on the halacha of havdalah and have wine, and then be mako on the 9 days. Assuming you are being mako, because maybe I would assume is they knew you had to make havdalah during the 9 days, so that was never goes there not to drink wine on for havdalah anyway. And or you want to be machmir on not drinking wine out to simcha, and therefore you have that. So again, there are different minhagim. But either way, you have to make sure it's chamar medina. If not, there's no problem making it on wine. And if there's no katan available, you drink it yourself. Just drink the regular amount. Those are some of the issues coming up this week. Misha nichnas av b'matim b'simcha. So again, it's not really a din of avelos, because an avo can have these things, or some avelim apparently don't have them, but the minhag Ashkenaz is we have basa v'yayin during avelos and ananinas, and a lot of it has to do with the time of pruning. It's all about a zeichel, a mikdash, and today we're very good at finding ways to of getting out of the zeichel churbans, about finding things and finding a siyam, which also the poskim say as well. Sudas mitzvah, a person is permitted to have have wine. What is the sudas mitzvah? The discussion, and the siyam also works they say you shouldn't really actually rush to see him. I'm sure there are many people who finished Makis and they wanted to know that last daf very well, and they've been waiting until next week to make the siyum on Makis. But it's fine. Ramosh has the tshuva which all the camps rely on. So whether you like it or not, someone wrote a whole tshuva about how camps sure rely on this, and they're entitled to their opinion, but not. Ramosh already has the tshuva about in terms of everyone being one big family in camp, and therefore it's okay. He doesn't get into rushing to see him, but in terms of if it's a real bona fide siyum, everyone shares in your simcha, and therefore you could go as. I think the Taz's call is that as long as you invite someone you would normally invite. Like the question was that somebody asked me the shaila, it happened last year in some place, I'm not going to mention where this person made a siyum, obviously specifically during the 9 days, and he invited everybody. It wasn't a case where people normally eat together. It was a place, I guess, kind of like a bungalow colony, everyone has their own places to eat. So whether that was, whether according to the Taz that wasn't appropriate, I'm not saying it's the only shita. So different ways, whether it's siyum. I guess the question was whether a bris, once you have a mila shalom bizmana, there's a discussion in the poskim. Could you push it off already, assuming mila is one of the things that you could, it's a sudas mitzvah, and it's, many are makbid. Rav Shechta's makbid to have meat at the, or if you ask him anyway, he says you should have meat at the sudas bris mila, because that's a simcha. So assuming you're having meat anyway, if you're having the bagels and lox, it's not an issue. But if you're having the meat, so could you push off a mila shalom bizmana on that? So the Nosey Yehudas in general, he screamed about it. People used to do it at Erev Pesach. That so somehow the town in this town they always had a mila on Erev Pesach. The question is, what do you mean? How could you plan a mila? I guess if the community is big enough, you could probably count on him. But how could you plan a mila? No, they always had the mila shalom bizmana. They told them to wait until Erev Pesach. So the Nosey Yehuda was very against that minhag. He said it's terrible. There's a chiyuv kara. He blasted the custom, and also similarly he'd be against also in terms of pushing off the bris milah in order to be able to have meat during the 9 days. But that's mishanichtas up amata b'simcha basa v'yayin, the issue of wandering, rechitza, those things we could get into, and then next week we'll go into more. We'll discuss Minyani Tisha B'av.